Welcome to GRITS GARRI. I'm your host, Carolyn Malachi. Be Steadwell just dropped a video for her single, New Girl. And that's exactly what she reminds me of. The new kid at school, the girl with the fresh cut who arrives mid-semester with a smile and style that make you curious. You want to sit next to her at lunch, pick her brain about current events, listen to stories about where she's from, and ask her to explain the word she just used. Intersectionality? We'll get to that. This is the most I've heard Be speak. We met in New York during a studio session with Toshi Regan. Then we collaborated again at the 2017 Women's March on Washington. Her film, her film, Vow of Silence, provided visuals for one of my songs. Art is the language Be speaks. It's music, it's film, and it's queer. Welcome to GRITS GARRI. Carolyn Malachi here with the incredible, the incomparable. Can I get low enough?
Oh my God, stop. You're stop it. Nope.
The Be Steadwell. How are you?
I'm pretty well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's the latest?
I just dropped a music video, which was fun.
New Girl?
New Girl, yeah.
Did you shoot that here in D.C.?
I did.
You did? Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. What was the, impetus for shooting New Girl?
Well, it was part of my Breakup Songs album, which is just a bunch of songs about my breakup. And that particular song was about rebounding. And I thought that was a nice, relatable topic. Very human topic. So I decided to, interpret it visually.
And there's nothing like that breakup energy to write from. Oof. Right? It's just powerful. It's powerful. Do you ever write from a happy place? Do you write from a place of joy?
Yeah, occasionally. Yeah. But the songs aren't as good. You need a conflict sometimes. Yeah. Even if it's a happy conflict.
What is a happy conflict?
Happy conflict, should I eat ice cream or should I eat French fries?
Damn.
I don't know. I didn't write a song about that.
Or the both, right? Have you ever taken, okay, I'm going to put this on you.
Okay.
You can try this. You can trust me to try this or not.
Okay, cool.
Wendy's Frosty must be chocolate with a French fry.
And you dip it.
My God.
Oh, yeah. I believe that. I believe that that's very good. And I'm going to try that.
Please. And I need you to just write a blog post about
and the song and an album probably.
Right.
Yeah, happiness.
Speaking of blog posts, what is lemonading?
Right. So lemonading is a term that the character Titus from the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt coined, I guess, and it's sort of a term for when you are going through a breakup and you decide to be artistic and or smash things inspired by the pain and suffering of your breakup.
We this particular blog post that you wrote brought us to tears, and we would like our audience to have the same experience.
Tears of laughter?
Okay. Tears of woe.
Okay.
Whoa.
Yes. When we broke up, I became a child. Do you remember when you were a teenager and unrequited love or failure or breakups felt like the actual end of the world? When you'd throw yourself onto your bed like a soap star, weeping and thrashing dramatically? That's where I've been for the past year. I cried her name into my pillow at least once a day, collapsed to the floor often, threw shit, broke shit, ate endlessly, drank endlessly, stopped moving. It sounds like a cartoon now, but at the time it was very real. Yeah.
That's some serious energy to write from.
Yeah, but what else can you do, I guess? It was kind of all I had to do.
Just to create.
Yeah.
when you're deciding to take your life and put it into song, how much, like, do you ever stop to think, okay, somebody's going to hear and or read these lyrics on Rap Genius and then call me on these things, or like I'm going to go play a concert and then my audience is going to have all these preconceived notions about me? Like, do you ever have those thoughts? And if you do, like, how do you deal with that?
I do have those thoughts, and I feel it's important to draw a line, but at the same time, we put a lot of our lives online these days, and mostly happy things. Sometimes really intimate happy things, like, hey, me waking up in my PJs, smiling in the sun, and that's really intimate, but it's, I don't know, it seems like acceptable because it's a good moment. And I think it's harder to be that intimate when it comes to sort of sad things or traumatic things, and I personally feel like that's what I want to do in my music. I want to be sincere. I want to be intimate on all of the different levels: happy, sad, crazy, funny, and most people could probably figure out all the things that I talk about in my music anyway. So it doesn't feel weird to say it and own it, Yeah.
So, I mean, with your music being so broad, I mean, with your skill set being just incredible, I mean, you're a filmmaker. Thank you. I've never had an opportunity to thank you publicly for allowing me to use Vow of Silence.
Oh, yeah.
Scenes from Vow of Silence as a music video.
Sure.
I mean, with your music, not just touching like pop and R&B and soul, but I mean, you just dig from your depths, and it's so broad. Your music is genre-less, like it's but you've decided to call it queer. So why did you decide to use that term? Like, some people say, why can't you just say it's good music? Why you got to call it queer? Like, what was that? Yeah, why did you decide that?
That's a good question. I mean, I think as a queer Black woman, the part of myself that I had to leave at the door was either queerness or Blackness. When I listen to music, it could be a lyric that's offensive or homophobic, or just the pronouns that folks use. I didn't see myself in music, and I wanted to create music that represented my life as a queer person, and also helped other queer people feel seen, other LGBTQ people feel seen. And it's not like all my lyrics are "I'm gay, hey, let's hang out," but it's just like using these pronouns, or like having this this framework and this perspective that's the center of the narrative. And I mean, it feels right, I guess.
Got you. There's so many new buzzwords floating around, right? And I want our listeners to have the right vocabulary. And one term I want to introduce people to, and I'm going to ask you to explain it, is intersectionality. I know they've been seeing that and hearing that on the interwebs. What is intersectionality, and what does it mean to you?
Right. Intersectionality, I guess, is just the concept that sometimes, thinking about the Black struggle or the LGBT struggle or women's rights, it's not enough to cover one item, because we're all complex. So I'm queer and I'm Black and I'm a woman, and all of those identities intersect in what I am. So just knowing and acknowledging that it's important to see all the elements of someone's identity in order to understand their struggle. I think that's kind of what it means to me.
That's what, in a way, that's what this program is about. It's called GRITS GARRI, and what I'm trying to do here is to explore the depth that is a creative community, the members of the creative community who are Black and who exist on this different parts of the African diaspora, but who are living and working in D.C. Did you grow up here in the city?
I did grow up in D.C., yes.
Excellent. So, you're no stranger to grits, then?
I'm not.
How do you like your grits?
I like the savory grit. I like I like some cheese, some bacon, some shrimps. Yeah, that's my way. And I did have it once with made with cream cheese. In addition to cheese,
clutching my pearls.
Yes, and it was just like a cloud. It was so light, and I do not have the recipe, but that was the best little batch of grits that I've ever had.
Excellent. This has been an amazing interview.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring you back in a few minutes to do a collaborative performance with Pages.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you. Woo. Pages Matam is one of the nicest poets you'll ever meet. I mean nice in the hip-hop lexicon sense. He's also one of the nicest people you'll meet. He once brought himself and a group of young poets to Harlem to perform with me at the Apollo. See? Nice. If you meet Pages, do yourself a favor though. Avoid asking Pages if Pages is his real name. Ask about his childhood in Cameroon. Ask him about how he came to speak 5 languages. Ask him about being the dope, the director of poetry events at Busboys and Poets. What about modern anime, though? Where do you stand?
Modern anime?
Or what I really want to know, what I'm getting at is, are you pro Attack on Titan or not?
No, I'm not. I'm not, only because I have a couple of issues with Attack on Titan. I feel that the payoff is never where it needs to be. To me, it's always this thing is like, all right, we're gonna hype it up, and then you're like, all right, here's the moment, and it's terrible, and you're like, wait, really, that's it? And then I also hate the main character. Like the main character, Aaron. He's annoying. He's incredibly annoying.
He whines a lot, and Mikasa is always coming to his rescue.
And Mikasa is always. So I thought it would have been a better direction to be like, oh, he died. That's dope. And now Mikasa becomes the actual main character, and like her whole quest is rooted in like revenge for my brother and da. But eventually she comes through some kind of growth. But then they brought him back, and he ended up being a Titan, and I was like, okay, this could be something. This could be something. We could go somewhere. And then it just didn't. And it was just like, all right. So it's taking like, I see what they're doing, which unfortunately is one of the tropes of anime, and also one of the issues with popular anime is that once they like gain that popularity, they get into this space of, all right, we're going to stretch it out as much as possible. We're going to do the whole Shonen, Naruto, the whole Bleach kind of thing. We're going to stretch out the episodes as much as possible. We're going to and stretch out the story in ways that it really doesn't need to be like stretched out at all.
No, they're filler episodes.
You know what I'm saying?
They're filler. I think that's, so sometimes you can provide a little bit too much context, you know, because you're a writer.
Yeah.
But sometimes the audience doesn't need all of that, right?
Right. And you know what? You're hitting it right in the nose. That's my issue with Attack on Titan. They do too much telling, not enough showing. It's like, show, don't tell.
So show me.
What you need?
I know Pages. I know Pages, the dope, right? The dopest poet. Who is Patrick?
Oh my gosh, you out here just
Who's
bringing
Patrick?
bringing out governments. This is unnecessary. There are people here who don't know who I am. Okay, but no, Pages is not my birth name, but it is my real name. I hate when people like ask that all the time. Like it gets super
Pages
annoying.
like, did your mama name you Pages?
Right, did your mama name? So the story I tell to people is like, yes, like my mom wanted a daughter, which she actually did want to name her Paige. And so I just use that. Like, yeah, my mom wanted a daughter. She named her Paige. She had a son. She named me Pages. That's the story. Boom. Stick to it, and that's it. Or if like you're somebody I don't like, I'm like, no, it's not. Yes, it is my real name, not my birth name, but it's my real name, and that's what you're gonna call me. That's it. But yeah, my particular attachment to that name, which to me is kind of a sort of dead name at this point. I used to be real mad when I was a kid because everyone in my family had everyone, all my siblings, my immediate siblings, all have traditional names. Every single one of them. And then I ended up with Patrick. I'm like,
what happened?
So, did you not like me? Is this how you got back on my dad? Like, what's up? What's up? You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, so it was interesting, even though I think I've lived in a lot of ways to the meaning of, because, you know, like, especially in a lot of African cultures, like, names are everything, you know what I'm saying? So the names you get, like, mean something, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, I've definitely lived up to the etymology of my name, right? But I've grown quite distant to that name, and really when I plan on actually like making Pages like my real name eventually, like changing my name, right? And a lot of that comes from like it's incredible to come into a space where you make a name for yourself, like in the literal and the metaphorical way, right? And to be in a space where like it is like this name is one of the only things that I've ever owned, like for myself, and that I created for myself, that I built for myself. This name is a world that I've created, right? That has become, and this world has become my safe haven. It's become my sacred space. It's become my creative space, right?
But I study you.
Oh, word.
Like, the way that you write like influences my writing.
Dang.
Yeah, it does.
Thanks.
And there was one particular piece that I've seen you perform. It's about like Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
And like, did you really use Saturday morning cartoons to adjust your accent? Like,
yeah, absolutely. And to like learn English. Like, yeah, absolutely. That's a very true story for me, and a very true story for a lot of immigrants, right? And it's like it came to a point of like I would plop myself in front of the TV for like hours, right? Watching as much television, and then came to a point, but like I was always like a cartoon head. I was always like anime. I grew up on anime, so like anything that was cartoon, like yeah, I would try to stick to that. But yeah, I would hours and hours and just like sit down and like and watch and like hear the way that like people spoke and try to mimic that, right? So I would see Johnny Bravo and I would try dang it, Bill, and like all this time. So like, you know, I would watch Dexter's Laboratory, Dee, get out of my room. Like I'm trying like all of these things out, you know what I'm saying? And like literally like shaping my mouth and trying to make these sounds and like and learning the culture in some kind of way. And yeah, it was a very interesting journey, especially because Power Rangers, so like, and one of the things that I talk about Power Rangers is actually how I came to write the first poem I ever wrote.
Really now?
Yeah.
Only my favorite after school program.
Right. And it was an episode where like all of the Rangers, they all got sent back in time in like different portions of it. I'm forgetting which season it was. It's it's so many seasons of Power Rangers now. But anyways, so they all got sent to different portions of time, and the Yellow Ranger, whom I had a crush on, her name's Aisha. She was just super cute black girl. I was like, yo, she's so fine. Anyways, so like she got sent to like 17th century France, and then, you know, of course I have a lot of ties to France or whatever, and she meets this guy who's a poet, and like he sees her, he falls in love with her, and he's like, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and he writes her these poems, and like through, you know, the poems and as they continue to interact, and of course the monsters come to attack, and like she saves him, and he falls in love with her even more, and he's like, don't go, they develop this whole engagement, this whole dynamic, and you know, he keeps writing her these poems, and like the more and more he writes to her, and it's very genuine, and like she's like falling for him to the point that it came to a point she didn't even want to go back to like her regular time, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm watching this, I'm like, man, like you can write stuff and girls fall in love with you. That is the American way. That is what I need to do in my life. So I wrote my first poem for this girl I had a crush on in my school.
Were you successful?
Not at all. Not in the leastest. We're still friends, but she don't get in shows for free though, because that's just how I feel, and I'm petty.
That's right. That's only right.
That's only right. You know what I'm saying? Could have had it all, but no. Yeah. So no, it wasn't successful at all. And then I showed it to my teacher at the time in middle school, and she was like, "Oh, this is good. Oh, bless your heart," because I barely spoke English like at that time. So I literally sat in front of like a French English translation dictionary and like try to pick out the best words, the most beautiful words to try to put this poem together. And she was like, keep writing. So I kept writing, and all that jazz. And then there came about to this little poetry contest that they were doing in my school. And she was like, oh, you should submit. Don't you have poems? And I was like, man, like I feel like all my stuff is trash, because if this girl didn't like my stuff, who's gonna like it? Nobody.
But why do we hold people to such high standards? Why? When they've done nothing to earn them.
Man, listen.
Nothing.
I'm telling you, but my little middle school heart could not handle it. Okay, so I was like, all right. I went through my brother's library and my mom's library looking through books. I'm like, all right, I need inspiration. And I found this poem. It's a very popular poem. It's the poem that's like, how does it go? It's the poem that starts off about the different colors of like white people turn. It's like, how can you call me colored? When you're angry, you turn red. When you're sad, you turn blue. When you're da-da-da-da. And then the last line is about how can you call me colored, right? And so like, I was like, this is incredible. What metaphor? This is awesome. I'm going to plagiarize this. Because I was like, man, listen, that was like these American people, they don't know, because it was in French, right? When I was reading, it was in French. So I was like, they're not going to know. I'm going to translate in English. It'll be the greatest poem everybody has seen. So I translated, spent all night, translated the poem into English, and I submitted it. And I was feeling like the mouse. Like, this poem, ain't nobody touching this. Man, 2 days later, my same teacher, she comes to me. She's like, so you've been disqualified from the contest because you plagiarized. And I was so crushed. Oh. I was so crushed, but she like, and then my homework was to like, she like, go home, and she wrote plagiarism on a piece of paper, and she says, go find a definition, use that word in many sentences, and bring me back that paper when you're done. That's your your extra homework for tonight. I was so crushed, and I couldn't dare tell my mom, nobody, because that would have been a butt whooping of a lifetime. And yeah, so like, so I was a little distraught after that, and I never wrote another poem again until one fateful day, freshman year of high school. Because when that happened, that was in the 7th grade. So freshman year high school, so about a year, 2 years, freshman year high school. Went to Parkdale High. Woohoo! Shout out to the Panthers. Go Panthers!
Wait! I don't think we've identified where you came from, though.
Oh yeah! Oh,
from the beginning.
Yeah.
What was the beginning?
In the beginning, there was made? God. After God, it was me. In the beginning, I come from Cameroon, Central Africa. I was born in Yaoundé, Cameroon, and then moved throughout. I've lived through a bunch of different other African nations, traveled a lot, and then ended up, I was in between France and Cameroon the most, because I had a lot of family in France, and like that's where a lot of my father's side of the family is out there too. And then then I had the option. They were like, it came about a time, a lot of it was around a multitude of issues. It was part, getting a better education. It was also part, a little bit of like turmoil that was happening in my country at the time. And then the other part was the relationship between my mother and my father was not going well. And it had deteriorated to the point of abuse, and to a very point of basically my father was trying to kidnap me. So it was you need to leave before your father finds you. And so they were like, where do you want to go? Like anywhere, you either go to Europe or you go to America. And I chose America because all my older siblings were here, or at least 2 of my older siblings were here already. They were going to GW out here after they moved from Morocco. And so I was like, I want to go there. My big brother is there. My big sister is there. Why not? I'm not going to go to a place where I don't, really have my immediate family. And so I moved here permanently around 2000. 2000. And then, went to a bunch of, kept going through a little private school sector, private Christian schools, blah, blah, blah. Shout out to Ascension Lutheran in Landover. Well, it doesn't exist anymore, but I think the church still exists. The school doesn't. So, but shout out to them. And then, so that was the middle school and such I went through. It was also a sucky process because when I came here, I was supposed to go to the 8th grade. They pushed me back 2 grades. They put me back in the 6th grade because I didn't speak English, even though I passed the English test with like flying colors.
Great system.
And they put me back, and I literally like breezed through middle school with like, I was a straight A student from like 6 to pretty much my 11th grade year.
So the show is called Grits and Garri.
Yes. Garri.
Garri. How do you eat your garri?
Oh man, with your hands. What other way is there to eat it?
What do you like in your garri? How do you like your garri?
Oh man, wow. So I like it with okra, pepper soup. And I like it real spicy. I need a little bit of magie. Just
the cubes.
Yeah, the cubes.
Let me tell you about these cubes that I've just been introduced to.
Well, you just got introduced to magie.
Look, that's not a thing.
It's magic.
Yes, okay? I now know it's magic.
Absolutely. Drop one of them cubes in there, or you gonna have a good time. And it was great. It was good. Yeah, so that's how I like to eat it. And you got to eat it with the hand. You toss it in. You do a little bit of this, swirl it up, and you good. If you see anybody eating their garri with a fork, you can't trust them. Don't trust them. You're not welcome in my house. I'm sorry. You're just not.
Well, thank you.
No,
for
thank
this
you.
interview.
No, thank you.
Ready for
thank
this
you.
collab?
I am
with the wonderful Be Steadwell.
Super ready. Super duper ready.
You know that moment when music becomes more than art? When it naturally evolves into social commentary on supporting, learning from, and truly appreciating each other? That's this moment.
last name is an inflection on suicide watch. A part of me may die if I don't learn to raise my voice properly. In Cameroon, my last name can be water, taking as many shapes as my tongue would comfort its small body into. Matam means ball. Matam means fufu. Matam means a place of refuge. That means that my last name is a Sunday meal with family. It is a game best played with those you love. It is holy ground, a church on my mother's hands, suffocating in all of this American pronunciation. My first name is colonization. It is sacrifice, blood offering to my identity, asking forgiveness for the oppression stumbling its way into my mouth. I would ask my mother, why did you give me this name? Mama, why did you give me this name? She would reply, it was a parting gift from your father, how it carries both his emptiness and his guilt before his legs turned into another woman's mouth. In school, I spent a lot more time learning about other people's names rather than the ones closer to my own. 7th grade biology is when I first realized the color of etymology. When your name has never belonged to you, it is but a comforting assimilation, something that will make the osmosis a little easier. So your name won't be seen as a concentrated solution for illegal, for poor, for uneducated. My name is constantly bracing for impact. Difficult names are only worthy of a tongue if it's for their vertical reach and running speed, for the championships they can win, for how far their arms can stretch them into a better neighborhood, for how quickly they can dodge a bullet or catch a charge, for how obedient and safe their name is, for the name always having its pants up, its chin down, its music low. Every time these names are said, it is a syllable of waves crashing into go back where you came from. In the West, our names become exotic, a remote island where the unfamiliar come to dock. They fish for our identities and how they can be prepared into a better meal than leave all of the plastic behind. Nicknames and mispronunciation is pollution, so we change our names to not feel so alone while we work to reclaim a history we have always been pushed out of. But you know, I want my next child, when they will say, Baba, akula feli, Baba, akula feli ni manje, Baba, akula feli ni manje, ochuna munsi. I want my next child to have a name made of the same Cameroonian red clay I was raised in. A name dressed as a thunderous melody, not a lazy tattered rag of a sigh, or a family tradition hanging in the dulled halls of a forgetting mouth. A name that will be a commitment of praise to un lion indomptable, how it makes a throat swell into a song, or a nation, or an ocean. I chose the name Pages so that I could finally write my own story. It is the only name I have ever owned. A name that is a holy temple where my child and all who utters its dust will go to worship the country they are finally becoming.
Man, if you're not somewhere crying or with a box of tissues or just sobbing and experiencing full joy, I don't know if you're human. Shout out to Pages and Be Steadwell. Here to lift all of our spirits is a dope mix from DJ Underdog.
I don't believe in hell, no, can I have enough of love? Only believing the word is meaning is love. Compassion, my friend. I don't believe in hell, no, can I have enough of a soul? Only believing the word is meaning is love. Compassion, my friend. pretty. Choose to move from Babylon. We can live in a city with no pretty. Choose to move from Babylon. Let all of shine through and every time.
Girl, ain't no mystery. At least, as far as I can see, I wanna keep you here, laying next to me, sharing our love between the sheets. Hey girl, ain't no mystery. At least, as far as I can see, I wanna keep you here, laying next to me, sharing our love between the sheets. Like the way you receive me, girl, I love the way you release me. I'm coming on slow, coming on slow, coming on slow,
GRITS GARRI is recorded at DC Radio and sponsored in part by the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. Shout out to the producers, DJ Heat and Jessica Sturgis. My name is Carolyn Malachi. You're listening to DC Radio 96.3 HD4. Listen online at dcradio.gov.
They could do whatever, and I can always edit. Like,
Swag.
y'all can take y'all time, however time you need to get into the groove and the
Swag.
rhythm. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to do some things.
You don't
And,
have your poet voice.
And I know how to use a microphone. Like so many people, I need to do a microphone workshop, to be honest.
Carolyn, you can back up just a tad too.
Back it talk.
Maybe halfway between that. A happy medium of where you were and what you just did. Yeah. All right. Okay.
For more Grits and Garri, check out my YouTube videos, Spotify playlist, and Instagram story. Peace.